One evening in my study, I grew deeply troubled over a particular situation, and my anxiety increased to paralyzing levels. I walked through the offices and found our youth minister working late at church. Together we knelt and earnestly prayed about the situation. Later that evening, I discovered that against all odds, the tide had turned at the very moment we had been praying. I don't know how to explain it, but somehow, had I been praying alone, I feel my solitary prayer might not have been effective enough to produce the change. But there's something about praying with another person that intensifies prayer and sends it to heaven with greater velocity. We learn from Exodus 14, verse 10, that the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. There was one great unified prayer rising from a host of voices, piercing the heavens like a massive signal of distress. When Dr. Paul White was serving in a bush hospital in East Africa, a school teacher named Yamusi came to him carried on a stretcher from a nearby village. Parasites and disease had attacked his feet, swelling them to twice their normal size. He was no longer able to walk or stand. The disease is very bad indeed, Dr. White told him. The only way to save your life will be to cut off both your legs above the knee. The man's face fell. But there's no place for a man in our tribe who has no feet, he said. How can I cultivate? How can I look after my garden and my cattle? Pulling a worn testament from his scant clothing, Yamusi turned to James chapter 5, verse 16 and said, "Read this." Dr. White asked his assistant to translate it. It said, "The very strong prayer of a man who is right with God is most effective." "Do you believe that?" asked the patient. "Yes," said the doctor. "Do you believe it enough to stake my life on it?" The doctor pondered the question. "That depends on you as well," he replied. "It also says, if two of you shall agree in anything that you ask, it shall be done." So together the two men made a covenant. Their prayers were accompanied by months of hot foot baths, injections, therapies, and treatment. After 7 months, a slight improvement was seen, and the two men knelt together thanking God and asking for more progress. One morning, Dr. White found Yamusi hobbling around the ward, beaming, and before the year was out, he was able to walk without pain. God doesn't always say yes to all of our requests, but He listens with unusual attentiveness when 2 or 3 gather in united prayer, and He responds in His own way and time, with power and with wisdom.
It is certain that we will face difficulties and that God will allow them. Moses and the Israelites found themselves caught between the devil and the deep Red Sea. So are we sometimes overwhelmed by life's problems. But God delivered the Israelites, and He will deliver us too.
I was facing some difficulties, opened up my Bible, found Exodus chapter 14, and saw some principles there about dealing with difficulties that I'd never seen before.
In the Red Sea Rules, author Robert J. Morgan offers 10 sound strategies for moving from fear to faith, revealing how even in the midst of seemingly impossible situations, God has promised to make a way for us.
The same Lord who led them in, led them out.
We would like to send you a copy of this book as a thank you for your ministry support. Please write to us, order online at crossroads.ca, or call 1-800-265-3100.